Help us hit our first 1,000 subscribers. Your support drives us to create even more wonderful stories. Thanks for being part of our journey. Daniel had always been the quiet type, the kind of man who showed love not through words, but through actions. For the past 2 months, he had been pouring his soul into planning the most unforgettable birthday surprise for his wife, Emily. She was turning 30, a milestone she had both dreaded and secretly looked forward to, and he wanted to make her feel like the center of the universe. He booked a private rooftop venue downtown, one with a panoramic view of the city skyline and twinkling fairy lights. He personally picked out the decorations, from soft blush florals to the custom "Happy 30th, Emily" banner that would hang above the champagne table. He even reached out to her childhood best friend who lived across the country, someone Emily hadn't seen in nearly 5 years, and flew her in for the occasion. Daniel scheduled the party for a Saturday night and told everyone it would be a surprise. Emily thought she'd just have a quiet dinner with Daniel at their favorite sushi spot. She had no idea that over 30 people were going to be waiting to shout "Surprise!" The moment she stepped into the elevator lobby. Daniel had even rehearsed the moment. He would fake forgetting her birthday until the very last second, then hand her a blindfold and say, "Trust me, you'll want to see this." She always laughed when he was mysterious, and he could already picture the sparkle in her eyes when the surprise unfolded. But lately, something felt off. She'd been distant, distracted. Her phone, once left face up and unlocked on the coffee table, was now constantly face down or hidden in her purse. Daniel shook the thought off. Everyone gets busy. Maybe she was just stressed at work. Maybe she was trying to plan something for him too. It wouldn't be the first time she tried to turn the tables on a surprise. Still, a knot began to twist in his gut every time she smiled at her phone. Every time she excused herself to take a call in another room. Every time she gave him a half-hearted kiss goodnight and said she was just tired. But Daniel didn't let doubt derail the plan. No, he had spent too long making this perfect. He believed that sometimes people grow distant right before a big moment, like fear before a proposal or nerves before a wedding. He had no idea that what he was planning would become the stage for the worst night of his life, and the beginning of a truth he never asked for. The day before the party, Daniel decided to run one last check on everything. He drove to the rooftop venue in the morning, walking through the space with the event planner, making sure the lighting was just right and the playlist he had spent hours curating sounded perfect through the speakers. He imagined Emily's gasp when she'd walk in and see the people who loved her gathered in one magical place. He ordered her favorite cake, red velvet with cream cheese frosting, from the bakery downtown. He picked up the custom gold necklace he had engraved with the words, "My always dash," the same phrase Emily had written in her wedding vows. Everything was set. But when he got home that afternoon, the house was quiet. Emily's car was gone, and she hadn't left a note. Something she always used to do, even just to say she'd be back soon. Daniel texted her, "Hey babe, everything okay? You out?" No response. Hours passed. The knot in his stomach returned, tighter this time. That evening, Daniel called Emily's best friend, Mia, the one who was already in town for the surprise. He wanted to see if Emily had mentioned anything strange. Mia hesitated before answering. She said she had some errands today. Something about meeting a client from work. Why? Daniel tried to keep his voice light. Oh, nothing. She's just been a little distant lately, probably overthinking, but his chest ached as he ended the call. Later that night, Daniel heard the garage door open. Emily walked in wearing heels and a sleek black dress he didn't recognize. She looked stunning, and surprised to see him still awake. "Hey," she said casually. "Didn't expect you to be up." Daniel smiled. "Couldn't sleep? Everything okay?" "Yeah, just long day." She kissed him lightly and headed toward the bedroom, but Daniel noticed something strange. A faint scent of cologne that didn't belong to him, not the one he wore, not the one he ever used. She said she'd met with a client, but why was her lipstick smudged? And why did she seem more exhausted than usual? Not just physically, but emotionally drained. Daniel lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. He told himself to let it go. The party was tomorrow. He'd prove to her, and to himself, that they were still strong, still in love, but deep down, Something had shifted. He couldn't name it, but he felt it, and the next night, it would explode into the open. The morning of Emily's surprise party began with the sound of rain tapping gently on the windows. Daniel stood in the kitchen, stirring her favorite hazelnut coffee, practicing in his head the little speech he'd give when she walked into the party. It would be emotional, sincere, honest, maybe even tearful. Emily, however, looked more tired than ever. She avoided eye contact, barely touched her breakfast, and claimed she had a last-minute work thing. Before dinner, Daniel nodded, forcing a smile, pretending he hadn't noticed the faint red mark near her collarbone she tried to cover with makeup. She kissed him on the cheek, cold lips, rushed, and walked out the door. Daniel watched her drive away, the same way he did every day, but today, the gut feeling in his chest refused to quiet down. He grabbed his phone and opened the small app he never thought he'd need again, the one connected to the GoPro he'd hidden inside the car last summer. Originally meant for road trip footage, he hesitated, then pressed live view. The screen flickered. There she was, Emily driving, humming softly, her expression unreadable. Then, suddenly, she turned off the main road, not toward the city, not toward her office. Daniel leaned closer. She pulled into the parking lot of a boutique hotel. She sat in the car for a moment, checking her reflection, then fixed her lipstick, the same shade she wore last night. Daniel's hands trembled. He muted the audio and just watched. Emily stepped out. A man in a navy trench coat was already waiting, tall, clean-shaven, confident. They didn't speak. Not visibly, they just walked inside together. Daniel's chest collapsed inward. Everything inside him wanted to scream, to cry, to punch something, but he didn't. He just stared at the screen like it was a horror movie, and he couldn't look away. He took a deep breath, then saved the footage, and instead of confronting her, he made a decision. The surprise party would still happen, but now, it wouldn't be for love, it would be for truth. And the truth, he promised himself, would be revealed in front of everyone she knew. Daniel spent the afternoon not in anger, but in precision. He sat in his office with a notebook, methodically listing names, family, friends, Emily's colleagues, people who adored her, people who thought they knew her. He didn't want to destroy her. Not yet. He wanted her to face the truth, the same way he had to alone, raw, without warning. The florist called to confirm the bouquet delivery. He told them to double the white roses, white, the symbol of purity. It felt like a bitter joke now. He also upgraded the catering, champagne, custom cupcakes with her initials. Everything perfect, everything sweet, but Daniel's eyes told a different story. Hollow, determined, rehearsing how this night would end. Then he made a final call to the one person who might break everything open. Her best friend, Megan, the one who always looked at Daniel like she knew something she wasn't saying. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, Daniel, ready for the big night?" She chirped. "I need you there," he said, cutting straight to it early. "Don't bring anyone else. Just come alone." She paused. "Is everything okay?" Daniel's voice didn't shake. "It will be, but only if you show up." He hung up, then pulled out a small USB drive. He copied the GoPro footage onto it and placed it inside a tiny gift box, the kind people assume holds jewelry. Then he wrapped it with a note on top that simply read, "Play me first." The evening air felt too warm for October. Daniel stood by the entryway, adjusting his collar, trying to steady his breath. He'd never hosted a party before with so much at stake. The living room looked beautiful. Golden streamers curled from the ceiling. Soft fairy lights danced around the walls. Photos of Emily were everywhere. Baby photos, their wedding, smiling trips, perfect memories printed in ink. It was the picture-perfect celebration for a woman who, until recently, meant everything to him. Guests started to arrive one by one, greeting Daniel with warm smiles. He forced one back each time. Not a single person suspected anything was wrong. They hugged him, handed over gifts, and praised the decor. Emily's sister, Claire, arrived with her usual overly sweet tone. "Oh my God, Daniel, you outdid yourself," she said, peeking into the kitchen. "Emily's going to freak out when she sees all this." Daniel just nodded. "She will," he replied quietly. Then came Megan. She walked in without a word, her eyes locking onto Daniel's for a second too long. He gave her a tiny nod and handed her a drink. No one noticed the tension between them. Not yet. At exactly 7:48 p.m., Emily walked in, the entire room erupted surprise. Emily froze, a mix of joy and panic flickered across her face. She looked stunning in a navy blue dress. Her hair still damp from the shower, her eyes darted. Not toward Daniel, but scanning the crowd, looking for someone who wasn't there. Daniel noticed. She laughed nervously and hugged a few friends. "Oh my God, you guys are insane," she said. Trying to collect herself, Daniel stepped forward and kissed her on the cheek. "I wanted tonight to be unforgettable." And then he handed her the gift-wrapped box, the one with the note. "Open this first," he whispered into her ear. His tone was calm, too calm. Emily blinked. She held the box like it was heavier than it should have been. People watched curiously. She unwrapped it slowly, opened the lid, and stared at the tiny USB inside. Her fingers trembled, her smile cracked. "What is it?" she asked. Voice unsteady. Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. He plugged the USB in, the screen flickered, and the room went completely silent. The screen blinked to life. The party noise died instantly. All eyes turned to the television as Daniel clicked play. At first, it was just shaky footage, someone's hand adjusting the GoPro. The date in the corner read October 4th, 10:18 p.m., just 4 days ago. The video showed a dimly lit living room. The camera was sitting on a shelf, hidden behind a photo frame. It faced the couch, Daniel and Emily's couch. Then she appeared, Emily laughing. She wasn't alone. A man entered the frame, tall, dark hair. The room collectively inhaled. Megan gasped. "It's..." she began, but Daniel raised a hand. No need to say it, everyone could see it. It was Owen, Emily's co-worker, the one she'd mentioned just twice, the one Daniel had already suspected. The video showed them talking, then sitting too close, too relaxed. Then the laughing stopped. Owen leaned in. Emily didn't stop him. They kissed long, slow. The room remained dead silent, not a single cough, not a breath. On screen, Emily whispered something. The audio was quiet, but Daniel had boosted it. "I just need one night," she said. "One night where I don't have to pretend." The crowd stiffened. Someone dropped a glass. No one cared. Daniel pressed pause. Emily stood in the middle of the room, frozen, her face drained of color. Tears welled up, but she didn't speak. Daniel's voice cut through the silence. "One night, huh?" His words were soft, but sharper than knives. He turned to the guests. "To those of you wondering why I invited everyone, I figured if she wanted a night without pretending, she might as well be honest in front of all the people she's been lying to." Emily's knees buckled. Claire rushed to catch her, but Daniel didn't move. He stood there, calm, cold. The betrayal hung thick in the air, like fog no one could breathe through. People began leaving, some awkwardly, some angrily. Megan stood by the door, watching Daniel. There was something unreadable in her eyes. Emily finally whispered, "I can explain." Daniel shook his head. "No, Emily, you already did." And with that, he walked out of his own house, leaving her alone exactly as she had left him. Just 4 nights ago. Daniel didn't go far. He sat alone in his car, parked just a block from his house. The silence inside was deafening, but his thoughts were screaming. He played Emily's words again in his head. "I just need one night." But it wasn't just one night. It was the unraveling of 12 years of trust, of building a home, a future, a life, together. His phone buzzed. It was Claire. "Claire? Daniel? There's something you need to know. It's about Megan." His stomach tightened. Megan? His best friend since college. The one who helped him plan the party. He answered, "Claire." She knew. What? Daniel's voice cracked. "Claire. She knew about Emily and Owen for months. I only found out last week, but Megan helped cover for them. She said it was none of her business." Daniel stared at the windshield, unblinking. His mind rewound every conversation, every hug, every "you deserve better" from Megan, now poisoned with betrayal. Claire continued, "Claire, I didn't know how to tell you. I thought you should hear it from her." Daniel hung up. He didn't want to cry, but he felt his throat closing. Not just Emily, now Megan. He drove, not home, to Megan's apartment. When she opened the door, her face was pale. She already knew. "You knew," Daniel said flatly. It wasn't a question. She didn't deny it. "I was trying to protect you," she whispered. Her voice trembled. "No," Daniel said. shaking his head. You were protecting her? She reached out, but he stepped back. Every time I told you I had doubts, you told me I was paranoid. Daniel said, you let me feel crazy instead of telling me the truth. Megan's eyes welled with tears. I was scared you'd hate me. I thought if I told you, it would ruin everything. Daniel laughed bitterly. Everything's already ruined. She sobbed now, collapsing into the doorway. I never wanted this. I thought it would stop. I thought... Daniel interrupted. You thought wrong. And for the second time that night, he turned away and walked out, but this time, he didn't feel heartbreak. He felt clarity. Everyone he trusted had lied. Emily, Megan. The only question left was, who else? And deep down, Daniel knew. There was still one more truth waiting to be uncovered. The next morning, Daniel barely slept. His eyes burned. His thoughts were raw, but something kept nagging at him, something he couldn't quite place. He sat in the kitchen with his coffee. Untouched, the silence in the house felt heavier than ever. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was the need to know everything, to control the narrative, before it controlled him again. As he stood to dump the cold coffee, he noticed something glinting between the couch cushions. He reached down and pulled out a small black USB drive. It looked old, scratched up, but familiar. It was labeled in Emily's handwriting, wedding playlist. But Daniel couldn't shake the feeling. Something was off. Emily never used USBs. She always streamed everything. This was outdated. He plugged it into his laptop, expecting a few songs, but there was only one folder. Inside it, a series of video files. He clicked the first one. It wasn't a playlist. It was security camera footage. He froze. The footage showed the upstairs hallway, their hallway, his house, and the timestamp. It was from 3 weeks ago. Emily walking toward the guest room, then Owen appearing behind her. Daniel's hands trembled as he clicked through the next videos. One showed Owen walking into their house when Daniel was supposed to be away on a business trip. Another, Emily sitting on Daniel's side of the bed with Owen, laughing, sipping wine. But the worst, the final clip, showed Emily taking down the hallway camera herself, looking straight into the lens before it cut to black. Daniel leaned back, everything inside him hollowed out. She had known everything, and still, she lied again and again. But the question now wasn't what she did. It was, why did she keep the videos? Then he realized she hadn't. This wasn't her USB. Someone had planted it. His phone buzzed. A message from a blocked number. Thought you deserved to know the full truth before it all comes out. Check folder 2. Daniel looked back at the USB. Another folder had appeared, encrypted at first, now decrypted, and when he opened it, what he saw made his blood run cold. Daniel stared at the second folder on the USB. It was titled simply, Not What You Think. His hands shook as he opened it. There were 3 more videos, short, grainy, but enough to send a chill down his spine. The first video showed someone entering Daniel's office late at night. It wasn't Emily, it wasn't Owen, it was Ethan, his best friend, his groomsman, the man who helped him build the very house he lived in. Ethan looked around nervously before pulling out a duplicate flash drive. He plugged it into Daniel's work computer. Then he copied the camera backups, all of them. Daniel blinked, not believing what he was seeing. The second video was taken in a parking garage. Ethan meeting Owen. They shook hands. Then Owen handed him a thick envelope. Cash. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The third video, that one was audio only, but it was damning. Ethan's voice. He needs to find out, but not from her. Not directly. He needs to feel like the whole world knew but him. Then Owen. That's cold. Even for you, Ethan. He should have never had what I wanted. She was supposed to be mine. Emily chose wrong. Daniel staggered back from the desk. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was orchestrated revenge. The woman he loved had cheated, but the man he trusted most had set the stage for her to fall. And worse, he recorded it, preserved it, and sent it to Daniel like a final act in some sick theater. Daniel looked out the window, his chest rising and falling rapidly. His entire life, every friendship, it was all a stage built on lies. His phone buzzed again. Another message from the blocked number. She wasn't innocent, but she wasn't the one playing God. You want the final truth? Meet me where it all began. Attached was a location. The cabin where Daniel had proposed to Emily, where Ethan had stood beside him as best man. Daniel's fists clenched. This wasn't over, but someone was about to regret starting this war. Daniel drove in silence, the forest road narrowing as the sun dipped below the trees. The location on the message was precise. He knew it too well. The cabin where he had proposed to Emily 2 years ago. The place where, unknowingly, he had planted the first seed of this nightmare. He parked and stepped out. The air was still, only the wind whispered through the pine trees. Inside, the cabin was exactly as he remembered. Except for the faint glow of a laptop on the table, no one else seemed to be there. He approached it cautiously. A video file blinked on the screen. For Daniel, he hit play. The screen showed Ethan, sitting in the same chair Daniel stood by now. His eyes bloodshot, hair disheveled, but voice steady. If you're watching this, I guess I didn't have the guts to tell you face to face I loved her before you ever met her. I just never told her, and when she fell for you, I told myself I'd let go. But I couldn't. He took a breath. I didn't plan for it to go this far. I didn't think she'd actually cheat. But once I saw it happening, I let it unfold. I gave Owen access. I made sure the cameras stayed on, and I sent you that flash drive, not to hurt you, but to free you. Daniel clenched his jaw. Then Ethan's voice cracked. The worst part? I never even told her I loved her, and now I've lost you both. The screen faded to black for a moment. There was silence. Then, from behind him, a creak. Daniel turned. At the doorway stood Emily, eyes red, hair tangled from the storm outside. She held an envelope in her hand. I followed you, she said, her voice trembling. I needed to know if you were coming here to forgive him or to destroy him. Daniel couldn't speak. He was torn between fury, heartbreak, and something else. Something he didn't expect. She stepped forward, handing him the envelope. You're not the only one with a secret, she whispered. Inside was a old sonogram, and then a birth certificate. Daniel froze. Father, Ethan Graves. His heart stopped. I didn't know how to tell you, Emily whispered. The baby I lost, it wasn't yours. Daniel stared at her, shattered. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a lie built on another lie. And in that moment, Daniel realized he hadn't just lost his wife. He had lost everything.